What's up, everybody? So yes, I am going to be learning Polish. Subscribe to the channel so you guys can be notified when those videos come out. I got a lot of people requesting me to react to this one, how to read Polish or something. So let's see how it goes.
What is this? Who created this?
Okay, so I'm gonna try to say this as well as I can. Wish, shish, si, sie, sie, czy, odrzezie, głos, gła, szy, ża, zią, right? Wystrzyże mię zlewy psie ciowi. Freaking kill me now, bro.
Is this even a real sentence, or did a cat walk on my keyboard while carefully avoiding vowels?
That's what I think
did
all
Polish
the
people
time, bro.
eat their vowels during occupation and couldn't afford to grow new ones? Yes, and soon
So I have a theory that Polish people couldn't afford vowels because they were too expensive during the time of communism.
they're going to eat yours unless you learn to read this mess before they find out where you live. Luckily, to read this, you don't need to learn a new alphabet. This isn't Cyrillic or Asian moon runes. Additionally, unlike English, each letter represents a specific sound, so as soon as you learn what each letter sounds like, you win. Obviously, the ability to read does not equal the ability to understand, but it just might impress your Polish friends enough to stave off their appetite. Now keep in mind, I'm not a real teacher. I have no higher education, no real experience with teaching anyone anything, no more knowledge than a typical native speaker at best, and I didn't even pay attention in high school, so feel free to consider me the best person for the job and ultimate authority on the subject. Okay, let's have a look at the first word, wszyscy. I've heard
Fascisty.
people say it has no vowels, but it does.
The
This letter
wise.
here is a clear vowel in Polish and makes the sound I, like in the word system. While in English it can also sound like I in Y, E in study, or even Y in yellow, because English makes no sense. In Polish it always makes the sound I. The same goes for every other vowel. A, O, E,
A, on,
L, I.
L. So ow and L. Ow and L. I always get those two mixed up, so I need to practice those. Ow and L.
O, U, they all make one specific sound with no exceptions.
Ow,
There are
ew.
two versions of U, but both sound exactly the same. It's dumb, but so am I, so I can't judge. Now I would like to say it's the same for
Wszyscy.
consonants, but there is one tiny exception I noticed while writing this. W in wszyscy should sound like wy, wódka, wojna, but it seems to soften up to an F, wszyscy. I suggest ignoring this issue completely because frankly, who gives a shit? I can hardly tell the difference myself. We know now that this is V and this is I. Time for this. Every time these two letters are together, they make the sound sh. English does the same thing, except instead of using S and Z, it uses S and H, like in shoe, shenanigans, or shower, which you haven't taken for too long and I can smell you from here. In addition to sh, we also have a bunch of other little shits stuck together to form new sounds. Whenever you see any of these, they each make one sound, which makes the scary sentence at the beginning significantly more manageable. Now for the last sound we need to explain in the word wszyscy, this is ts. It's like a vocalization of the drum sound when your dad makes a joke, badum ts, except shorter, cycki, cena. S needs no
Cycki.
explanation, as it's exactly the same in both languages, so we're done. You should now be able to decode wszyscy.
Fascisty.
Unlike in English, where letters have dreams and can be whatever the hell they want, in Polish you simply pronounce each sound one after another and you get the word. W, sz, I, sy, cy, I.
Fascisty.
Wszyscy.
Wszyscy.
Okay, so we've explained a bunch of stuff and decoded wszyscy. Now let's continue reading the insane looking sentence I had started this video with. We already know sh. Next we have ch, which is a combination similar to English C and H
Okay.
in words such as children, touch, and chop. Now Polish ch is a bit harsher than its English counterpart, but there's also a comparable softer sound, ch. You can hear both in the word cześć. English version falls somewhere in between those two. Next we have the vowel O. It's just O. It has always been O and that's all it ever will be. Unlike in English where it can be O in mob and rob, O in broke and smoke, but also A in stop and mom. And don't get me started on two O's sounding like U in food, but O in
Good
door.
door and then good.
Truly, English makes no sense and should be abolished. Moving on. D is the same in both languages and needs no explanation. Ż is a combination
Ż.
not similar to anything I can think of in English,
Sh.
but there are some French names you may be familiar with, such as Jean-Claude Van Damme, which seem to use the same Ż sound. Ż can be written in two ways,
Sh.
both sound exactly the same, but for any given word, only one is correct. That's dumb, but luckily we're trying to learn to read here, not write, so you don't have to worry about it. There are some very rare cases of R and Z not forming Ż, but you'll probably never encounter them, and I can only think of one example, marznąć, so I'd recommend to forget about it and act surprised when you run into this 5 years from now. Vowel E. The sound is E and nothing else. Even if a Polish person were to read the English word even, it would probably sound even, because vowels in Polish don't care about your soft tongue and refuse to bend. But you know what does bend? The sponsor of this... Nah, just kidding. I don't have a sponsor. I have not yet been szczodrze given the opportunity to sell myself out. And so we're done with the word szczodrze. Sz, cz, o, d, ż, e.
Sz, sz, ch, o, dż, o, d, sz, e.
Szczodrze.
Szczodrze, szczodrze, szczodrze.
Now for głaszczą.
Szczodrze.
G is the same as in God, given, or game, but not G in forge. For that kind of sound, we have the combination of D
Easy,
and
right?
Ż.
Yeah.
Dżem, dżuma, or for
Like
double
jam.
the fun, dżdżownica. Ły is like W in English work or way. A is another unchanging, never-bending vowel. It's not hard, but it is in the word hard, and that's what it always sounds like. While in English, it often replaces other vowels when they come to work sick, such as O in fall, E in angry. In Polish, it's always A. We've already covered sh and ch, so next is on.
Oh.
It's like A with a little tail. It's cute. The same sound shows up in the word telephone. In theory, it's supposed to sound always the same, just like other vowels, but I guess it can sometimes turn into on if you don't try hard enough. Like in the word mądrość, it often sounds like mądrość, and no one seems to care. Now then, głaszczą is done. Time for wstrzemięźliwe. I know this word looks ridiculous, after all that's the reason I created this nonsensical sentence to begin with, but bear with me. We start with the already known to us w from wszyscy, kinda softened up to an F, but whatever. S and T are the same as in English. So far so good. If you can draw someone's attention while whispering pst, you can also say wst. Next we have ż and e, already encountered in szczodrze, then m, the same as in English. Wstrzem. Now vowel e. Like the rest of them, it always sounds the same. Instant fit defeat. E, easy. Next up is ę. Similarly to how a had a variant o, e has a variant ę. You take that e and you drag it a little bit. E, ę. It's like you have e in thank you and ę in thank you? It makes sense.
Okay, so the way that I've been able to imagine it in my head is ow, like owie, right? And then ew, like a UFO, almost like a ew, 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 ew. We don't have that sound in Mandarin. We might have it in Hokkien. I don't think we have it in Spanish either. But it's kind of like an en. You don't really say the n. It's just very stuck here, like nasally, almost in your forehead.
Think about it. J. Another case of two ways of writing this sound and only one being correct for any given word. One is technically shorter than the other, but it's not all that noticeable. Źle, zima.
Źle.
Z and E together always make a ź sound. As far as I know, there is no z in Polish, and if there is, it's probably a borrowed foreign word. L, the same as in English. E, v, and e have already been covered, so we're done here. W, s, t, ż, e, m, i, ę, ź, l, i, w, e. Wstrzemięźliwe.
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 Frick. Wstrzemięźliwe. Wstrzemięźliwe.
Last word in our monstrosity, pszczoł.
Okay, so now I'm training my brain because when you see this, right, the P, S, Z, C, Z, your English brain kind of reads all the letters individually, but you have to read, for example, the S, Z and the C, Z as like clusters, right? So I'm training my brain to do that. And I think actually once you do that, it makes reading this a lot easier because it's like, it's not just P, S, Z, like you have to sound out every single one. It's a P, and then a SZ, and then a CZ. So that's technically 3 letters, and then OV. So I'm gonna try to say it before he teaches me. I think it's the sh and ch. So psh, sh, chovi, psh, psh, chovi, psh, chovi, psh, chovi. I think that's correct.
By now you've realized that what may
Chovi.
look like 5 consonants stuck together is actually just 3.
Okay, like I said.
P is the same as in English, and everything else we've already mentioned. P, sh, ch, o, ły, I. Pszczoły. Now, if you were a perfect
Pszczoły.
student capable of learning everything on the first try, which you are not, you would be able to now read Wszyscy szczodrze głaszczą wstrzemięźliwe pszczoły. This sentence, however, does not contain everything, so let's fill in the gaps and teach you how to read every Polish sentence there is. In theory, anyway. Here's all the stuff there is. Here's all the stuff we haven't covered yet. And here's all the stuff we haven't covered yet, excluding things identical in English. Let's start with ch, you hardworking human. It's exactly the same as in English, except it has 2 variants. C and H together also make ch. And I've been told this version is supposed to be a bit softer, but I honestly can't hear the difference, so most likely neither will you. Chleb, chiny, honor, horror. Yi. In English, you often write down this sound as Y in words such as yellow or yes. If you wanted to force Poles to read English against their will, you could write these words like this. Yellow, yes. Ni. 2
So
versions.
like Jagiellonian University, which is here in Krakow. So that's how I can remember that, J.
One shorter, one longer, that sort of thing. You start with an N and soften it to ni. Koń, niski, danie. Rather simple. I'm
Niski,
90%
danie.
sure it's not a Monty Python reference.
Is that the, wait?
2 versions.
Is that the same
both
sound?
Start with an N and soften it to ni. Koń, niski,
Koń,
danie.
niski,
Rather simple.
danie.
U. 2 versions, both sound the same. Always U. Dumny, grubas, Kraków.
Kraków.
It will never be A, no matter
Kraków.
how hard it
Kraków.
craves English but. R. While in English, depending on the accent, R is sometimes barely even there. In Polish, it's always der, tough as nails and ready to drill holes in you. Have fun trying to pronounce that, and if you do, dobra robota.
Dobra
She.
robota. Dobra robota. That's like Spanish.
It's like a softer sh, which I've already compared to English sh in shoe. Siła, siorbać, coś. From the harshest to the softest, I drank them like this.
Shiva. Okay, so I think the comparison that I would make between the two is the CH is probably sh. It's a lot more forward, and the lighter one, sh, you see how my mouth gets a little wider? Sh.
Dzy.
Z.
It's not much different than if the letters were separate, to be honest. Feels like this merge is simply the
We have the
effect
sound in
of
Mandarin.
reading d and z very fast. Pieniądze, dzwonek.
Pieniądze, dzwonek. Pieniądze, dzwonek.
It's not dzwonek, but
Dzwonek.
dzwonek. I suppose it could be considered a harsher ts. Dż. We've covered z turning into ż, and now this can merge with a d into dż. Dżem, dżuma. You use a close enough sound when calling the name of the world's favorite religious figure, Jesus. In Polish, we call him Jezus, but if we were to pronounce his name the English way, we'd write it down as Jesus.
Jesus.
And lastly, G.
Okay.
Like before,
They
we
sound
had
the
a
same.
Z turning into J, and now we merge that with D to make G.
G.
Now that I think about it, maybe this would fit the English Jesus more. Dziwny, dzik, dźwięk, G.
Dziwny, dzik, dziwiak, dziwiak, dziwiok, Jesus.
In any case, if you've prayed hard enough and your faith in the Polish Jesus is strong, you should now be capable of reading Polish. You still won't understand anything, but at least the jumbled mess of consonants should make a little bit more sense. And if you're lucky, you might not throw up anymore at the mere sight of the word wszyscy. Praise Jesus, or your vowels will be eaten.
The main things I'm going to focus on are just like making sure I pronounce everything correctly and try to get as big of a vocabulary as possible. Because if you have a wider vocabulary, then I can start hearing other people saying it. The best way to do it, in my opinion, is to have like flashcards and read them before bed. Because if you're learning vocabulary, you have to sleep on it in order to memorize everything. You can't learn a bunch of vocabulary in one day. The same skill for when I was learning piano, when I was learning to produce music or edit. You have to be able to sleep so it kind of like imprints in your brain. brain. So going over flashcards before bed is the best way so you can learn vocabulary. Dynamic use, for example, actually speaking with people is the only way you can really get good. I'm still confused about a lot of the cluster words, but I think over time I'll eventually get them. What should I react to next? Let me know down below. Peace.